Let's take things back to May 2018. Arsene Wenger officially leaves Arsenal, and the fan base has never been so divided. Years of Wenger in versus Wenger out led to tension amongst fans, with players even commenting on the divide, and performances showed utter despair. They needed a spark to reignite the fan base, and Emery was employed to be that man. But it didn't work out. Then, Arsenal took a turn from experience to inexperience, hiring Pep Guardiola's right-hand man, Mikel Arteta, a face which of course was well recognised at the club through his playing days. But like Emery, it didn't get off to a good start. Arsenal fans wanted to challenge for titles again, but for a few years struggled to even get into the top 4 spots. Negativity continued to fill the club, with results spiralling, and fans again were left questioning senior management. It felt like an endless cycle. Many fans called for Arteta's tenure to end, but then things changed. The club gained its spark back, and it was evident in the 2022-23 season. They went on a sudden, for most, unexpected title challenge. Much needed deadwood slowly exited the scene. Young talents like Saka consistently showcased their star quality. Smart recruitment with Odegaard, Saliba and Gabriel. They now had a team which was a force. Arsenal turned from a laughingstock to title contenders. Upon reflecting on the past few years, it feels like we've seen a strong Arsenal era. And yet, Arteta's tenure holds only one major trophy, which secured 5 years ago in the FA Cup. Since then, glory seemed within touching distance through leading title races going into the last hurdle on multiple occasions, as well as a recent Champions League run last season, which saw them get into the semi-finals. Despite Arsenal consistently challenging for silverware, many fans again within the club feel like Arteta is now on thin ice, with some even calling for his head this summer. The ultimate question is it purely Arteta to blame for Arsenal's inability to get over the line, or are there deeper-rooted issues which are holding the club back? When Arteta began his reign, Arsenal seemed to have little identity. They were often outrun and outclassed by sides which ultimately were viewed as weaker opposition on paper. Then, in the summer of 2022, Arsenal came back as a different beast. They went from a 5th place finish to pushing Manchester City all the way. And for most fans, it seemed as if it was Arsenal's year. They weren't just contesting with Manchester City, but for a very long time, they were favourites. The following season proved that this wasn't a fluke, as Arsenal hit a higher points tally, but again just missed out. The balanced defensive stability mixed with direct and free-flowing attacks created a puzzle which most managers couldn't overcome. But since then, it feels like the optimism has faded. Supporters are beginning to lose belief, stating that the football has in fact regressed. There's been an argument that Arteta has become more negative, looking to hold on to 1-0 leads at home rather than kill games off. The stats, well, they show that this isn't an irrational viewpoint. Arsenal went from scoring 91 and 88 goals in the league to last season a less inspiring 69. So why has this happened? Does Arteta feel like his Arsenal side have been stung in the past with poor discipline in crucial moments? The match which stands out to me is the Southampton one, which saw Arsenal drop crucial points at home. Does Arteta not believe his team can sustain attacks? Does he believe that his side doesn't have the know-how and experience to see out close scorelines? Or is he falling into a trap, which I feel many modern-day managers suffer with, evolving their philosophy to such detail that every pass must be structured in accordance to a plan, which ultimately retracts away from his players' freedom to showcase their best attributes. And that was what brought Arsenal and Mikel Arteta so much success and free-flowing play at the start of his tenure. This is a valid point. The stats prove it. But also, is Arteta now feeling the pressure more? When he first started the job, did he have that aura of underdog? People didn't believe in him. People didn't believe he had the know-how and experience to guide a team to title success. Whereas now, he's come so close and there's an expectation, and that brings pressure. Another question which has faced the spotlight in Arteta's reign as Arsenal manager is mentality. If you look at this current Arsenal squad, how many players have won titles before arriving at Arsenal? How many are World Cup, Copa America or Euro winners? Off the top of my head, there's Mourinho and now Zubimendi. But when we talk about experience amongst the squad, there's very little. Then you combine that with a man who, although experienced titles as assistant manager, his ability to lead the line and take sides to glory is still under questioning. If you look at monster clubs like Real Madrid, for example, players like Vinny Jr. and Bellingham, when they arrived at Real Madrid, they could learn from Champions League winners such as Modric and Kroos. And then when those players left, they then had a squad who knew how to win. If you look at Arsenal, Odegaard is their captain, a very young captain. He leads by example on the pitch with aggressive pressing, but it's the conversations that happen in the changing rooms that we don't see. It's that leader who knows how to guide the youngsters. When you look at this Arsenal squad, they don't really have that. You're looking at an Arsenal with Vieira, a Manchester United with Keane, a Chelsea with John Terry, a Liverpool with Gerrard, a current Liverpool with Van Dijk. There doesn't seem to have that character, that leader in that current Arsenal squad. So are Arsenal lacking the ability to manage high pressure scenarios, as they simply don't know how to do it? Arteta clearly pays attention to psychology. He introduced the cop music in training before playing away to Liverpool. I can't remember how many seasons ago this was, but he clearly pays attention to it. But is this a sign that he doesn't believe that his players can cope? Have they shown too many cracks in their armour under pressure? Or is he part of the problem? Does he overthink key decisions? Does he lose his focus when results don't go in favour? I'm not in the know of this. These are purely suggestions. And Arsenal fans, I'd love to know your thoughts and see if you believe that any of these points are valid. Now, this next topic is certainly a sensitive one for Arsenal fans. Injuries. Throughout the season, Arsenal felt hard done by. They lost multiple key first-team players, and many believed within the club that this was the beginning of the end for Arsenal's title challenge. To name a few, Saka, Gabriel and Ben White. They weren't out for weeks, they were out for months. What are they doing in training? Is the workload too high? Are they getting efficient recovery? Are significant errors being made by staff who are employed for strength and conditioning, physiotherapy, etc.? Or is it just bad luck? Of course, injuries are a natural part of sport. No squad goes through a season without injuries, but Arsenal's definitely stood out. Increased intensity and more matches will of course cause more injuries, but ultimately Arsenal hit high heights in this area. The question is, would Liverpool have won the title without Salah and Van Dijk? Highly doubtful, but ultimately you create your own luck, and maybe Liverpool have better recovery plans in action, whereas Arsenal were negligent. It's an answer that many within the club will deny because jobs are on the line. But fans have a right to question, why did so many players get injured for long periods of time? Especially hamstrings. It's something the club needs to look into next season. The next topic which I'd like to bring up, and it very heavily links to the previous one, recruitment. As we've established, injuries are inevitable, but have Arsenal had too thin of a squad, which has placed additional pressure on their regular starters? The minutes add up throughout a season. If you look at teams like Manchester City, Chelsea and Liverpool, they have such squad depth that you could probably make 2 starting 11s and they do well in the Premier League. So they're better equipped to deal with losses and injuries. Has Arteta been handicapped because his ownership won't support him? If you look at January, Arsenal fans were begging for a striker. They were in the mix of a Champions League run, but they ended up with Mourinho up front and fell short. Arsenal seemingly do take a while to conclude deals. They're not cutthroat. Rumours will linger for months. Look no further than Sesko and Gyökeres. Whereas their rivals, Liverpool, they wanted Wirtz, they got him very quickly. City, they wanted Aït-Nouri, they wanted Cherki, they got the pair very quickly. They don't allow interventions. And it means that those players can enter pre-season early and they can better equip themselves to set a game plan. In the modern game, unfortunately, money talks. And if you're not willing to spend it, then you're not going to win big. But is Arteta to blame? Has he not placed enough pressure on the ownership? Does he not believe they needed one, a striker more specifically? Or do those in higher power within the club need to face all the backlash? You need a squad, and Arsenal don't have one which is strong enough. Subs shouldn't weaken sides, but rather cause a new fresh threat. You need players that can offer different threats in attack, in all areas of the pitch. Arsenal have become predictable at times with having one threat, Saka on the right. If they had that same threat on both sides, it would be harder for opposition sides to navigate game plans to limit Arsenal's attacking success. It's almost felt like Saka at times has been out there limping, not being fully fit, because they have no other option. And this will probably shorten Saka's career, or let's say his peak. So yes, Arsenal do need to bolster their squad. I'd say especially in attack. Defence they're sound, goalkeeper they're sound with Kepa signing, midfield they're sound, but I wouldn't say from a creative perspective. They've got Zubimendi, they've got Marino, they've got Rice. But in the attacking areas, it seems like it's Odegaard, and that's it. You've got kids like Nwaneri coming through, who I rate very highly, but we still don't know his best position. If it's on the right, that's where Saka plays, which is why Nwaneri's minutes have been very limited. Can he play in that number 10 position? Can Arteta be more creative with him, the same way Klopp saw Trent as a right-back when he initially played as centre-mid? Or Manchester City, Pep saw Núñez as a right-back instead of centre-mid. Players are very intelligent in the modern game. And so if Arteta's not being backed financially, he's going to have to adapt. Of course, in a dream world, Arsenal will have two number 10s. Maybe they can play together, maybe they can rotate. But if that's not going to happen, Arteta's got to be more expansive with his squad. The last point I'd like to bring up, and it's a very open-ended one, is have Arsenal just been stuck in a very tricky era to winning the Premier League? If you look at Manchester City, they won 4 in a row, the first time in Premier League history. When Arsenal and Arteta were booming, they were stuck in that era. For me, Arsenal could have gotten over the line if De Bruyne didn't come back from injury. They could have had their Premier League title, but he came back. If you look at Leicester when they won the league, I believe Arsenal would have pounced on that. But like Liverpool, they faced arguably the greatest Prem team of all time. I think they hit, was it 98 or 99 points, and still didn't win the Premier League? But the counter-argument is, well, Liverpool came back last season and won it. That should have been Arsenal. Arteta's had multiple seasons at the club, and he shouldn't allow a manager who's come in, Arne Slot, it's not his squad, and yet they've won another title. So that's an argument that heavily is against Arteta, and one which fans use against him. In my opinion, I don't believe in the luck side of things. If you have an example where you're in a cup final and a ref makes a dodgy decision and VAR doesn't make the right decision following that, that's bad luck. But winning Premier League titles is not based on luck. It's based on playing philosophy, having that squad depth, finding a way to win. And Arsenal and Arteta have lacked that. So I personally, I'm not down that argument of they've been unlucky, but I'm interested to hear your thoughts on that. So in conclusion, I do believe that Arteta can win something with Arsenal, but he needs the squad to do so. They have the defensive foundations, but they need that magic in the final third. They need that player who's going to hit 15, 20 goals and take the pressure off Saka. The question marks are still undeniable. Until he wins the Premier League, the argument will always be there. Is Arteta the man to guide Arsenal to glory? Or has he built the platform for someone new to take over and finish what he started? Please do let me know your thoughts. Thank you. Take care.